All right. Well, it looks like we've got a good crew in here, so we're going to go ahead and kick this off. Looks like some more people will be joining us and are joining us right now. But again, thank you so much for joining us this beautiful Wednesday morning. Really excited about this webinar. Today, we're going to be diving into tenant expectations, and they're obviously on the rise. That combined with property teams, facing tighter resources and spread more thin, quite honestly, than ever, at least that I've seen in my 10 years here at Genia. But with the good news is, modernizing building operations, it doesn't have to mean higher overhead. Today, the focus of the discussion is going to be, how we have, CRE teams using automation and mobile-friendly tools all over the country. And with those tools, they're improving tenant satisfaction while simultaneously cutting costs. And the big one, working more efficiently. As I mentioned, we're all spread thin these days. So a couple of housekeeping items. This is the podcast era, so we're not going to make this death by PowerPoint. We're going to have a great conversation and cover a lot of these points. But just to kind of level set expectations, we're going to do a couple of introductions. I have Paul Marcoux joining us, our Senior Director of Commercial Real Estate Operations. I'm incredibly grateful that he's joining us today. And we're going to chat through, the tenant satisfaction gap, some of the roadblocks that we see out there, both in the pre-sales and kind of post-sales side, that are kind of roadblocks, and how we overcome those roadblocks and help coach our customers to overcome those roadblocks. We're going to be chatting about successful CRE teams, and what they're doing, right? We're all trying to, emulate folks that are successful in life. So we're gonna, kind of go through some success stories, and chat about some practical application ways, excuse me, that you guys can achieve these goals. Then obviously some real world wins, and then if we have some time left over, we'll open it up to some Q&A, so we can go through all that and answer any questions that you guys might have now or that may come up during this presentation. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and introduce myself and then kick it on over to Paul to introduce himself. So my name's Ed Cohan. Like I mentioned, I've been with Genia almost a decade now. It's been an incredible ride, and something that I'm really excited to kind of share with you guys, is quite honestly some of the things that I saw in the 2015, 2016 timeframe, and some of those same topics and challenges, and how property teams are overcoming them, and kind of just the overall general landscape now compared to a decade ago. So like I mentioned, I'm Ed. I oversee our commercial real estate sales for the West and the Midwest regions here at Genia. And again, Paul Marcoux, our Senior Director of Commercial Real Estate Operations, is here as well. So I'll let him introduce himself before we get
Yeah,
going.
thanks. Just like Ed, I've been here going on 12, 13 years. It's been an absolute great ride and really enjoy seeing the growth of that commercial real estate industry, seeing the customers maintaining buildings, selling buildings, adding buildings, working with different teams, and just really understanding the landscape that is the commercial real estate world, and helping support those teams throughout their tenant amenity and engagement.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul. And really why I'm most excited to have Paul on the call today, is, Paul is in the trenches on a day-to-day basis with our customers. So he's having those, real life practical application conversations about, our solutions. He sees all the challenges. Look, implementing new technology, most people on the sales side of the house will tell you that it's seamless. Quite honestly, there's some challenges, right? When you're rolling out technology, and Paul sees those challenges, and helps our customers overcome those challenges, both from the implementation side and then during the course of them being a customer. So I'm really excited to kind of pick his brain, and chat, from a practical application standpoint about, what he sees, going on in today's environment, and then, kind of also what he sees in the future. Before we get going, just a quick, high-level overview of who we are and kind of what we do. So we have customers of all shapes and sizes all over the country. We cut our teeth in the industry a little over 2 decades ago, with an after-hours HVAC solution, now lovingly referred to our on-demand HVAC tool. So this is a tenant amenity that kind of democratizes control of the HVAC system. Historically speaking, and by historically speaking, I mean pre-COVID, it was really designed, to allow tenants in a role-based fashion to request HVAC outside of lease hours. We have a connection to the automation system that allows us to put those occupancy points at a higher priority when those requests come through, and then we automate the billing on the back end. So it's a real tenant amenity, and then also a huge process efficiency tool to help streamline a lot of tedious tasks that property managers used to be bogged down with. Now, in a post-COVID environment, we all know, and not to get too deep in the weeds of our conversation yet, but hybrid work environment has really taken a hold. So, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and obviously this kind of depends on location and tenant mix, but Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, most buildings that I'm at on a daily and weekly basis are very, very populated. Lots of foot traffic. Mondays and Fridays, again, depends on a couple different factors, but not so much. So we help folks go on demand on Saturdays and minor holidays. We've always done that. And then in a post-COVID environment, we've also helped our customers go on demand on those Fridays, on those Mondays. My mom used to always say there's no better way to save electricity than to turn things off. So that's kind of the idea, right? Turn things off, run at a minimum load. And then when folks are in the building, they can kind of use our solution as a remote control to turn things on so that things are only being utilized when there are folks in the office. And obviously, there's a huge sustainability portion of that as well. Now, from that, we've developed a couple other solutions, and quite honestly, this was derived from customer feedback. So, our Genia security or access control solution, one of the challenges with access control at the commercial real estate level is that they've been on-prem type solutions, right? I just kind of laid out that skeleton calendars and hybrid work days are really taking a hold. So, what's one of the challenges there? Well, a lot of people aren't at the property all the time, right? So having a cloud-based access control solution rolled out to the marketplace really checks a lot of boxes and gives people a lot of flexibility to, add, remove users, run occupancy reports, whether you're at home, at the office, at a parent-teacher conference, and something needs to be done ASAP via, your cell phone. We give our customers that ability. And our access control software utilizes Mercury hardware. Mercury hardware, if you're not familiar, is about as open protocol as it gets in the world of access control. Genia and about 23 other access control software providers utilize Mercury hardware. So it really protects your investment and gives you flexibility moving forward to not be locked down to proprietary hardware. Finally, and the product that's near and dear to my heart, and I know Paul's as well, is our submeter billing solution. This is, the biggest must-have that we have, quite honestly, in our portfolio. And the idea here is really to get buildings out of, the clipboards and spreadsheets as it relates to, reading their meters and billing their tenants back for their supplemental utility usage. That's a very manual, tedious process. And whenever you're billing, by hand in Microsoft Excel, look, we're all human beings. We're not perfect. Inevitably, mistakes can be made, and that can obviously be a challenge if you're rebilling your tenants for their supplemental utility usage. We see underbilling, we see overbilling all the time. So not only streamlining the process, automating the process, but also making sure that everything is billed for correctly 100% of the time is the name of the game. And I know we have a ton of customers that would vouch for our submeter billing solution. So yeah, that's Genia in a quick nutshell. So we have a quick poll. It's not super interactive. So if you guys want to, throw your answers in the chat, we can, kind of read those out and chat through some of your answers. But quick poll question here to kind of get us started and get us warm. Which part of your building operations do you think tenants notice the most, especially when it goes wrong? So I've got a quick story, and then I'll kind of toss it over to Paul, and then we'll go through any answers that might be in the chat. But when I started at Genia, about 9 years ago or so, one of my first conversations on site with a property manager, it really, really stuck with me. And that's a property manager who will go unnamed. really mentioned to me like, hey, we kind of look at ourselves as the complaint department sometimes. We get, all sorts of feedback, mostly, what we could do better, quite honestly. Not a lot of people, pat us on the back and tell us when we're doing a good job, kind of like Yelp. Most people go there when they have a negative review or something that they want to talk about. But it was funny. She was telling me a story about how a tenant came to her and was complaining that the toilet paper was the wrong direction in the restroom. So that really kind of level set my mind as to what property managers have to deal with on a day-to-day basis and some of those challenges that they have to overcome outside of their day-to-day job. So Paul, you're in the weeds with property managers, chief engineers on a daily basis, much more than I on the sales side of the house. So anything that comes to mind that you've heard from property managers and other folks on the building team that you would like to share?
Yeah, very similar to you is all those different experiences where you're working with these teams that are very much self-proclaimed complaint departments and really understanding expectation versus reality, and what it means to a tenant, what it means to a building, and very similar to each other, but different in many ways. And if I'm a tenant, I want to be able to access my parking garage. I want to be able to enter my building. I want to be able to go up the elevator, get in my space, the temperature's right. If I'm working late at night and I have to turn on equipment, I want to know that it's getting turned on, and the property team wants to know that it gets turned off. On top of that, you want to know that you're being billed for what you're actually consuming and using versus what might be more building amenity data. So all those different kind of stories and all those different conversations with property teams really led us to the way that we support our customers. And the reason why we support the way that we do is because we understand that there's so many different moving pieces, not just operationally, but also with how they're communicating with vendors, what they're making sure that the building's doing, that most tenants might not be aware of. And so anytime we work on any of our support, any of our products, we approach it in that light is how can we make lives easier, not just for the property teams, the engineers, the accounting side, but also the tenants, so that the things that are supposed to work, they work. And when they don't, we are there to make sure that we notify them that they're not working, and also help them get to a resolution.
Yeah, thanks for that, and I really appreciate you kind of bringing up those points. And I think now it's a good time to kind of pause and even say, hey, look, we're going to be talking a lot about technology, but I think something that sets Genia apart is our white glove approach to customer success. We really take seriously that white glove approach, and we like to look at ourselves as an extension of the property team, right? So again, we're going to be talking about a lot of the products that we have, a lot of the technology that we offer. But in conjunction with that technology, you get 24/7 access to the Genia team and professionals like Paul and people on his team. So I think that is a good thing to reiterate, Paul. And I know we'll talk about that maybe in a bit, but yeah. Uh, Paul, I'm going to lean on you on this one, and I'm going to be fully transparent, which I try to do both in my personal and professional life. Since I'm sharing my screen, I can't see any chats that people
Yep.
are putting in there. So if anyone is chatting, we certainly appreciate it. I can't see it. So Paul, if you want to maybe share some of the answers that folks are given, that would be appreciated since I can't see them.
Yeah, doesn't look like we've got any in just yet. Feel free to throw in chats. There's some questions. Uh, and we're happy to respond throughout. If you throw them in while we're talking, if something comes up and kind of stirs your question mind, let us know. We're going to be talking through live scenarios, situations we've seen in the past, things that we recommend, things that we can help work towards, and really just help you guys understand different perspectives because everything's about perspective.
Awesome. Keep an eye on that. I know there's a bunch of people in here, so um, don't everybody chat us up at once. I'm just kidding. So yeah, now we're going to be chatting a little bit about tenant satisfaction and kind of the gap, and just to kind of lay the groundwork on this before Paul kind of dives into some of these topics. I think just in something that I've seen in the close to the decade that I've been here at Genia. is a lot of amenities, a lot of technologies, a lot of tools, for lack of a better term, that I saw in the industry, call it 2015, 2016, might have been labeled as nice to haves. I think now, as we're approaching 2026, almost a decade later, a lot of those technologies that were, nice to haves, maybe a decade ago, are must haves, right? The Class A, trophy buildings, the buildings with the tenant amenities, with all the technologies, those are the ones that are really thriving, quite honestly, at least from what I see. And Paul, feel free to give your opinion as well. But as a lower Class A building, a Class B building, what are some things that we can implement, and maybe what are some challenges that you've seen, specifically to the remote and hybrid work environment, and how we've helped overcome some of those challenges.
Yeah, a lot of it comes down to what's in place in buildings and not wanting to necessarily invest in it, but what can be an add-on, what can provide value, what can also incentivize tenants to help drive some of the financial and kind of utility cost motivation against a building. And
Hmm.
in an environment where everything is looking at cost cutting, everything's looking at how is my building operating? Is it operating at a high level? Are we running the entire building when maybe that building's not super occupied? Do we know how many people are coming in? Do we know where the utility usage is throughout the building? So it's kind of coupling the on-demand idea of running a building less than what you really need to do, and giving a tenant opportunity to turn on their own space when they're coming in, along with actually understanding where you're using equipment throughout a building, where submeters can help and really work with property teams as well as tenants to help make better decisions. Data drives decisions at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I'd also kind of like to pick your brain on something, and this is in the same vein as the remote and hybrid work environment. That specific point is really talking about tenants. Something that I've noticed, and I'd like to get your opinion on this as well, is it seems to me that property managers are spread more thin than they ever were before, right? And this might not be applicable to the 500, 600,000 square foot building in downtowns. But especially in the suburban, markets, where we might have seen a property manager overseeing a building or two. Something that I'm noticing is those same property managers now have 3 to 5 buildings that they oversee, which again spreads them really thin. But it's a great opportunity to, leverage technology, to kind of fill in some of those gaps, and be more efficient in your day-to-day operations. Are you seeing that? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, all over the place. And how can we have more visibility into what's going on at buildings if I'm not actually on site, if I'm not
Mhm.
seeing what's going on? A lot of what we're talking about might come with turning on equipment, turning it off, making sure that the building's running, and then knowing when it's not. Same thing when you're looking at usage of utilities. Is there a leak somewhere? Is there something that's going to incur additional costs or create issues that I'm not aware of? So it's looking at different systems that can give you that visibility. But on top of that is actually having some partners that can do that work for you. So taking that workload off of these property teams and putting it somewhere where you know that the team that's watching your building for you is reliable.
Yeah, uh, appreciate that. Something else that I kind of wanted to pick your brain on. Look, we both get a lot of questions on a daily basis, and have for our entire, career at Ginia. Something that I've noticed is, up until about a year and a half ago, I would say the vast majority of those questions were all coming from property managers, engineers, essentially people on the property team. I've seen, and I'd like to get, your opinion and thoughts on this. I've seen a lot of conversations in the last year and a half, coming from tenants actually. So property teams and tenants can reach out directly to us, but have been asking us questions that are more related to a tenant in a tenant space as opposed to a building or a base building. Have you been seeing that? And if so, what are some of the things that you're getting from tenants? I guess to take that one step further, and sorry to make this kind of a three question thing, but what have we done to our products to help satisfy some of those requests and needs from a tenant perspective?
Yeah, and we're seeing the same tenants across many buildings. So you're looking at some of the flagship tenants in some of the high-rise office buildings that want to know that they can basically standardize the tools that they're using across the entire country. And so if I'm a tenant that comes in after hours, or I need to be able to turn on my space, but might be in different environments, it might be tougher for them to do. It might be more work. The other part of it too is we're getting a lot of questions around what's my utility usage? How much am I impacting the building's performance? And what can I do to actually change that? And so what we've really done with our products is create it in a way that you can look at it from a portfolio perspective. If I'm an asset manager, or if I'm a tenant manager that oversees multiple offices, I can see visibly what's going on in each of those offices from a standpoint of who's using the after hours system, who's using more energy. Is there things that we can make decisions on that would allow us to reduce our costs, reduce our spend, and actually see it real time? So it's giving them the access to the portal to see the information that would help them drive the decisions as opposed to necessarily those property managers that are trying to push on these things because they know that that's going to benefit the building.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for pointing those out. And from a practical application standpoint, what do we do with that tenant feedback? The answer to that, quite honestly, is we make product enhancements and updates. And they're basically derived directly from said customer feedback. Heck, some of our products are created directly because of customer feedback. So as it relates to on-demand HVAC, submeter billing. It is a role-based system, so some of the new features that we've rolled out, and again, this has been requested by our customers and their customers, the tenants, is we now have tabs where tenants can log in and see, their portion of their invoice packet for their supplemental utility usage. They can go in and run analytics and reports on their meters and consumption of their meters. I know we have multiple tenants within buildings that will benchmark, hey, the San Francisco office versus the LA office, and do challenges based upon consumption and fun things like that. So yeah. And then transparency, kind of the same vein, right? Since it's a role-based system, we think that everybody should be able to log in, and all the information should be there. So that's something that we've actively done with all of our solutions to make sure everybody has visibility. It is a core principle here at Genia as well. So yeah, look, I mentioned this kind of in my opening chat. Every technology, when you roll out, well, maybe not every technology, but most technologies, when you roll them out, there's going to be some challenges, right? So we help folks overcome some challenges that they're seeing in their day-to-day operations, and then obviously overcome some challenges during the implementation phase, as they become a customer. Some things that come to mind during the implementation phase are going through, spreadsheets to make sure things are billed correctly from a historical basis, both in the, pre-sales and the implementation phase. What are some, real life examples that you and your team are helping, customers both on the pre-sales as we're kind of chatting about our solutions? I know you guys are heavily involved in a lot of those calls with us on the sales side, and then also during the implementation phase as folks are becoming customers.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is mixed environments as well as kind of transitioning buildings from a new property team or a new engineer. And as things are moving, things get lost in translation. So it's working with the teams to really help understand what's going on at their buildings from a high level, whether that be on the HVAC side, running the equipment when it's supposed to, as well as turning it off when it's supposed to. The last thing you want to do is have an engineer go program something in. It just creates a schedule in the back end that no one's aware of, and you just continue to run a building. So that's really where these types of things like fault and leak detection can help understand if there's equipment that's being run or spaces that are being run that shouldn't be, because
Hmm.
it's all based on schedules. The other thing that you said, which is something that's very near and dear to my heart, is spreadsheets.
Hmm.
Something that everybody deals with. I think I've seen every kind of spreadsheet you can possibly imagine, where there's calculations, allocations, embedded formulas, anything and everything that can happen with a spreadsheet has happened. And it's by no fault of anyone's, is you plug in a number, you expect it to give you the right number, and something happens as you're handing it from person to person, as teams transition, as different people come in to work through these things, a multiplier gets incorrectly populated. And that's what creates issues. That's what creates errors. That's what creates some of those tenant satisfaction declines, is when you're not billing things correctly. That's where people start to have issues, when you can't explain how certain things are calculated. So what we do is we really spend that time to understand how things should be billed and communicate it to not just the property teams, but also in a way that they can communicate to tenants. Is how should this be calculated? How is it? How's it built? What's the usage? What's the meter? So mixed environments can also mean different utility types. It can mean different
Yep.
meter types. And so we just really work with the existing infrastructure. And then we've also had scenarios where people are like, hey, nothing works here. What can we do? And there's recommendations that we also provide in terms of different software solutions, and nothing that we're relying on. Everything that we do is really setting these teams up to succeed. So if it's a specific type of meter, we're going to put in the best meter, regardless of what the industry says you have to do. Is put in those meters so that they can read certain increments. So we'll go find the best one, and we can communicate with it. Even if you don't want to put in the best one, there's different kind of cost-effective solutions that you can do. We can still work with those.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, right? I mean, obviously we're a technology vendor, but we have those types of conversations all the time where, look, specifically as it relates to, submeter billing, which, is kind of what we're chatting about here, right? We can work with any type of meter manufacturer. And we can work with any utility. Inevitably, I think a lot of our conversations are around kWh meters regarding, electricity, and rightfully so. But that's always something that I like to make mention of too, just in case people aren't aware that we can help with those BTU meters, right, for hot and chilled water. We can help with those water meters. I know something funky has been kind of popping up recently in grease trap meters, and we're helping folks with some grease trap meters. So, yeah, really the stance that we like to take is kind of a consultative approach, right? So people can bring different ideas to us, different scenarios to us, and we will, just being industry experts, always make that recommendation, and then kind of, to bleed it into the next bullet point. Anything that we recommend is never going to be proprietary, whether that's related to our on-demand HVAC, Genea access control, or submeter billing. Any hardware that we would recommend for, any challenges with any of those products, or to get you, live with any of those products. If you were to move away from Genea, any other software vendor, can utilize the hardware that we would recommend. We never recommend proprietary hardware. So let's chat about proprietary hardware, Paul. Obviously that's a challenge when we run into a customer or a prospect that has proprietary hardware. How do we overcome that? What are some real life examples of how we've maybe transitioned somebody with a mixed environment or proprietary hardware to a successful deployment?
Yeah, and necessarily in the industry of submeters is we don't consider anything really proprietary, in the sense that we can't read it, because we've got the two applications. Is you can read it manually through our
Good point.
QR coded application that takes a timestamped image, as well as if it's networked back to a data collector. In most cases, we can plug into that. If not, there's some different solutions that we can uh, put in place that would allow us to communicate that. Once we're communicating with those data collectors, it's every 15 minutes. One of the customers, and gosh, this must have been probably about 5 years ago, brought us in, started asking us questions where they were saying there's no way that our water usage should be this amount. We're kind of a smaller Class B building, but we're getting hit with this super high water cost every single month. And so we asked them about what meters they had in place, where the meters were collecting from, and it was mostly on the tenant side of things. And so they could see where that usage was, and they're all being manually read. So what we suggested is put in this wireless system that would allow us to read it every 15 minutes, add a couple more onto building meters. And what we started to see as we got connected is that the weekends it started jumping up. Uh,
Mhm.
that doesn't make sense. If you're a tenant space that is only working during weekdays, well, why is that jumping up? Turns out what was going on is they had basically a faucet, a hose in the back of the building that turned into a shower for some of the local residents. And so they were incurring a whole bunch of utility water costs because of that. And so they were able to resolve that. And it's things that can allow people to find where there are potential leak or potential issues before they become even bigger long-term issues.
Yeah, great example, and we definitely support local population showering, but I totally understand that some folks might not want to pay for that. So yeah, no, that's a good one. My last question on kind of the operational roadblocks, and I'd like to hear kind of your perspective on this, and obviously I have my sales perspective on this, but from an operation standpoint. I would say one of our biggest challenges outside of budget the last few years, because obviously commercial real estate budgets have been a little bit tighter. But as it relates to apathy, I think that's probably one of the biggest hindrances for property teams, kind of deploying some of our solutions. It's, hey, well, this is our current process. This works okay. If it's not broke, we're not going to fix it. Specifically as it relates to reading and billing, for submeters, for on-demand HVAC, where if you don't have a solution like ours, typically those requests are going to come through a work order system that requires, a day or two's notice, so that engineer can program it and then manually bill for it. Like, I understand that, it might work. But what are some things that you talk to property managers and chief engineers to kind of get them to look at maybe some alternatives to the way that they're currently doing things?
Yeah, and a lot of different perspective of this that kind of goes into it. One of it being is billing accurately, and sometimes you think that a spreadsheet's going to work, the information on is on there correctly, and you pass it off to someone else, and they find something, and then
Yeah.
you start unraveling it, unwinding it. Manual steps create manual issues, so it's really looking towards a solution that reduces risk and allows for those teams to spend time on things that they're much better suited to do or really have an expertise in. And that's making sure that the tenants are happy as opposed to creating a spreadsheet against meters, making sure that the rates are correct. Rates are one of the most difficult thing across the country.
Mhm.
And it's something that we have a lot of expertise in because we have the amount of years of experience reading rate books. I don't wish that on anybody, but it's something that we've done because it's something that we really have dedicated ourselves to understand, to make sure that when we are billing something, we know that it's accurate instead of thinking it is or hoping it is. Because that's really where you're going to start getting tenant questions. Tenant questions turn into audits, which turn into legal expenses and unhappy tenants, potential risk of move out and cost incurrence there, as opposed to just spending that time to make sure things are done correctly.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and maybe something that we don't quite talk about as much on the sales side. of the house is quite honestly the liability, right? The people underbilling, overbilling, and possibly having to reconcile that first and foremost. And then I think you kind of hit it on the head. Look, the job of any building team is to make sure your building's full, right? And keep your tenants happy and keep your tenants paying rent in the building. And yeah, you don't want to do anything to jeopardize that. So great points. And I think again, the process efficiency. I don't want to beat it too hard, but again, something that I've seen and confirmed by you is property managers are spread more thin, building engineers are spread more thin than ever. So why not leverage technology to take some of those manual, tedious tasks off your plate, and then have more time to do your actual job and tenant facing, preventative maintenance, those types of things. So cool.
Yeah, it allows them to really come up with strategies. So, what's the strategy to create more value for your building,
Yeah.
instead of getting stuck in the weeds on spreadsheets and accounting files and tenant charges and some of those questions, and something that we really partner up with the property teams to make sure that they're comfortable and confident, onboarded on a monthly basis, answering questions and really being that partner that can look out for things before they become a bigger problem.
Yeah, yeah, and so now we're going to chat about kind of what success looks like, and I'll kind of let you run through a lot of these. But one thing that you mentioned that I wanted to kind of highlight with our solutions. Look, a lot of people don't want to purchase new things or roll out solutions, quite honestly, both personally and professionally, because it costs money, right? And as we've been chatting, budgets are tight, especially in the world of commercial real estate. So one thing that I always like to mention, and it's one of the first questions I always get once we're on a sales call done talking about the technology is what does it cost and how much is the setup fee or how much is the implementation fee? And I don't even think we chatted about that as a roadblock because quite honestly, it's not a roadblock for us. And the reason for that is we don't charge setup fees. So there's no upfront cost, there's no capital investment into doing a lot of the things that we're talking about today. Just a monthly subscription cost, which is very cost effective. But I know, upfront costs are a real big challenge for a lot of building teams. And I have, look, a lot of friends that, are in sales for other technology companies. And that's always one of the biggest challenges, is getting those upfront costs approved, especially in an environment that we're in right now. So again, one of the key differentiators for us is we can modernize your building. We can roll out these tools at no upfront costs. And quite honestly, you don't start paying those subscription costs to Genia until your building is live. So there's no costs incurred to our customers during the implementation phase, which I think we have a lot of webinars, a lot of conversations, and sometimes that can be overlooked. So I always like to point that out. Now, getting back to the slide at hand, what success looks like. Automation. You want to chat a little bit about automation and how that's helpful in freeing teams up to do things that are more important and kind of the transparency that it provides as well.
Yeah, and I think another topic we can kind of touch on for here is where's the market going?
Yeah.
So when you talk about automation, there's a lot of different ways you can think about it. One of which is automating data collection. So whether that's understanding how many people are in your building, understanding what temperature you're running your building at, understanding what equipment is currently running versus what isn't running. What do you need to do? What can't you do? What shouldn't you do? And really where the market is going, especially on a submetering side, is there's a lot of regulation that are coming out that are going to require 15-minute incremental data. How do you get there? Is installing the correct meters. And then what do you do with that data? You have a data collector. We're hearing a lot more from not just property teams, but also tenants asking about their own incremental data because what they want to do is actually be able to make decisions to run their equipment less. Or if they know that they're not going into their office on Fridays, well, I would expect my usage to go down, not up. And is actually having the visibility as opposed to when you're taking a manually collected meter, you're going to get at the beginning of the month and the end of the month. So you don't necessarily know what's going on throughout that entire time cycle. So automation is allowing a system to collect the data, but also putting it into a centralized place so that you can actually see it and you can make decisions off of it. And then as you have a strategy in place, it's if I turn off my buildings on a Friday, on a Saturday, I would expect my usage to go down. So can I see that? Can I track that? If it's not, well, then why isn't it doing that? And provide you that visibility into that type of information. And that's really what we're aiming our systems to do, is giving that high level of information based on automated data collection. And it's all about data.
Yeah.
Data is huge, data is important, and then giving people access to that automated data so that they can themselves see it as opposed to relying on someone else to get it for them.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I actually was in Chicago a couple of weeks ago, and I was chatting with a customer, and the subject of AI came up, and he was chatting about AI and some of the different tools that he was looking at, and we won't necessarily get into that, but he was kind of thanking me like, hey, I've looked at a lot of these tools. And AI is only as good as the data that you have to put into it. And thanks to Genia, I have a lot of this data. So you're 100% right, and data is king, and that's not going to slow down in any way, shape, or form. In my humble opinion, I think it's going to even be more amplified in the years to come as AI it really takes a stranglehold on our technology market. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and
good
allowing
point.
it to make smart decisions. I mean, that's really what it is if you're only reporting from a month back every single month and things aren't changing, how do you get ahead of the data that you'd expect to see? As you look at it
Yeah.
more regularly, you look at it more granularly, because then that's really where the decision making starts driving impact.
Yeah, that's fair. And look, it doesn't even have to, be an AI conversation. As a human being, you need that data to make decisions as well. You know what I mean? So, yeah, property managers, engineers, property team members of all shapes and sizes, right? It's tough to make an informed opinion if you don't have a data set, if you don't have information to back that up. So, some really good point. 24 by 7 monitoring and support. We've kind of touched upon that already. The non-proprietary hardware. I guess I do want to just reiterate this one more time. I know I've mentioned the non-proprietary, hardware thing a couple times here, but when I'm doing submeter billing calls, and I know you're on a lot of those submeter billing calls and demos, when people are interested in Genia submeter billing, one of the first questions I get is, Ed, how much is it going to cost to replace my meters with Genia meters? So just to reiterate this, do we require any proprietary hardware? Do we require our customers buy any hardware from us at all?
We don't. No. And even if they're looking at upgrading from manually collected meters to automatically collected meters, there's a lot more hardware options now than there have been in years past, whether it's wireless, whether it's networked. And I know that's always the case is how much is it going to cost me to do this?
Yep.
To start with us, it doesn't cost anything, but we can help design a solution to get you to what your goals are, if that's the direction you want to go. And in the meantime, we'll make sure that you guys are still billing on a monthly basis, collecting the utilities and recouping the costs that you should.
Yep. No, good point. And as it relates to real-time data and communication, I look, we're helping a lot of customers get there, but I'd be remiss if I, said that the vast majority of our customers, especially related to our sub-meter billing tool, have automated meters connected back to their automation system or connected back to some sort of data collector. So that's obviously something that we can help out with and get our customers there from a consultative type of approach. But again, how, if someone is on this webinar and they're thinking, well, I've got these Eamon Demon meters from 2006. They don't have the capabilities to connect back to anything. So maybe I'm out of luck. Are they out of luck? Do we have a bridge that we can kind of help them, get started with Genia until maybe they free up some capital to automate that if that's a end goal of theirs?
Yeah, so a couple things that we would approach in these scenarios is that some of those older meters, their hardware, at some point
Mm,
they're going to stop functioning the way that they should. And so there's some risk there inherently. But in the meantime, is we can help them continue to collect those meters, whether it's manually or it's wired back to, say, an IDR, to allow us to direct connect in, so that they can continue to pull that data in. But what we would do on top of that is also look at the different tenant types, look at the type of building, look at the load that those meters are attached to make a determination about whether that data makes sense. Because even if a meter tells you that it's reading 1,000 kilowatt hours, it might be attached to lights and that might not make sense. So it's really looking at the different tenant types. If you have a water meter that's attached to a clothing store that's using a lot of water, they probably have a bathroom. So it really just is more of a question about what the space is, what the tenant is, what the equipment's being fed from it that can allow us to make determinations to start and then get to a different solution. So all of these are things that we question. We don't necessarily just take data and put it into our system. Bad data in makes bad data out. So everything has a question behind it and a confirmation so that we understand what the building is to help the property teams understand, to also help the tenants understand.
Yeah, no, good point. Tenant portals, I'll toss this back over to you here in just a moment because I know you are an integral part of that product enhancement. Allowing tenants, our customers on the sub-meter billing side of the house, allowing those tenants, to be able to log in and see their portion of the invoice packet, and see their portion of, the invoice. And I'm sorry, and their meters, so they can drill in and run reports. On the security side, and then I'll kind of kick it back over to you for sub-meter billing. But one of the things on the security slash access control side that makes us a little bit different. One, we have a specific instance for commercial real estate, which is unique to the industry. But two, we set up tenants in the system, regardless if they're a Genia customer, which is again unique. So at the base building, level, you have an access control system, and then typically each tenant has an access control system. We're the only company that will set those tenants up, even if they're not a Genia customer, with the tenant portal, so they can connect their directory service and really have clean data, so that when they hire or somebody leaves their organization, the base building, system keeps clean. Now, since you were an integral part of kind of taking that tenant portal idea and rolling out into the sub-meter billing, solution, what were some of the requests that you were getting that led to that? What were some of the conversations that were being asked of you guys that kind of sparked the light bulb that said, hey, I know this hasn't been a tenant-facing solution historically, but it is a role-based system. Tenants are asking for information. We can kind of give it to them. If you want to give
Yeah.
us that story, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, definitely a few different scenarios that it solves for. One of which is you have a lot of tenants that want to self-serve. If you're paying
Hmm.
your own credit card bill or your own utility bill, you can log into your own portal and you can download your own tenant statement. So it gives that availability to those types of tenants. The other ask is coming from a retail side. So you're in a retail store. They've got stores all across the country, and the accounting team is located in the headquarters, maybe in some big city. Well, they don't want to have to get an email of what the bill is, or they don't want to necessarily have something mailed to them. So what can they do? You have a centralized portal that they can log into. So if you have different workspaces across the entire country, is creating a centralized place that you can pull your own bills. And then the last one, which is where we're getting a lot more questions and something that we're really building towards, is some of these high profile tenants that have 4, 5, 6 floors in some of the bigger buildings using 50 to $100,000 worth of utilities. They actually want to be able to download their own reports of their usage and costs because they need to report that back, whether it's for ESG purposes or to determine how well each of those different offices is operating. And so this really gives them that ability as well to self-serve. So everything's about self-serving, everything's about visibility and access. And we're continuing to kind of lean in to understand what that landscape looks like from not just a tenant side, but also a property team side is what else would tenants ask them for that we can provide in this system that would allow the tenants to basically skip over the property teams and go and serve themselves when they need to.
Yeah, no, I certainly appreciate that. And you brought up a good point there, that you mentioned retail. I think a lot of times when we're talking about our solutions, people get, oh, they do commercial office, they do commercial office, Genia commercial office. Do we do, any work with verticals outside of commercial office?
Yeah, you would be surprised at where you might find a submeter. We have a zoo in our portfolio. We have airports. We have industrial spaces. If it has a meter, we can help read for it and we can help bill for it. So it really doesn't necessarily matter what type of building it is when it comes to submeter. On-demand HVAC, that's a little bit more geared
Mm,
towards that commercial side of the house because of the tenant mix that you're going to have in your space. But there's a solution for everyone, and we want to make sure that we find that and really help. That's our goal. Is how can we take work off of property team's plate? How can we make sure that things are done correctly, accurately, and on time? And something that we really tout our hat on.
yeah, good points. Looks like we're coming up on time. Luckily, I think this is kind of the last slide. So, I'll touch on the net promoter score because I think I'm pretty good at explaining that because that was kind of confusing to me. And then I'll kind of let you chat about our customers. But something that we're incredibly proud of here at Genia, and I really think this is tied to kind of our white glove approach, is our 75 net promoter score. So 75, when I first heard of our 75 net promoter score a few years ago, I was like, oh, that sounds pretty good. 75's not a bad score. That's what, like a C? That's, pretty close to what my GPA was at Long Beach State. But then I did a little bit more research and I learned that it actually goes from negative 100 to 100. So 75 puts us in the top category with the Nordstroms, the Apples, the Amazons, some of the organizations that I think of when I think of top tier customer service. So we're incredibly proud about that. I just wanted to kind of explain that 75 net promoter score, unless in case your mindset was kind of like mine when I first saw that. But yeah, Paul, are we a startup organization? How many customers, do we have? Or are we just a U.S. company? Are we helping folks all over the globe? Kind of what's Genia's footprint out there?
Yeah, we've definitely grown since I started, as well as when you started, and a lot of that is the testament about the work that we do to partner with these property teams. What we see often is that a property manager might move from building to building, and something we're really proud of is a lot of those managers go to a new building and immediately say, "I want to bring Jania with me," because they've helped take work off of our plate, and I can trust and rely on them to do it correctly. And that's a lot of where that growth to the 2,000 sites is all across the country, as well as a little bit more international now. 30,000 submeters and continuing to grow. And that's meters all over the place. It's meters and ceilings and baseboards and floors and remote environments. So there's just a lot of different opportunities out there, and we're continuing to find different and new types of meters. So you think electric meters, well, we have water, gas, chilled water, hot water. You even said it. We had a gas trap or uh,
Bootstrap.
yeah.
Yeah.
So people are going
I
to
didn't
put
even know
in
that
everything.
existed.
Yeah, they need to know that information. And something that's coming up that's really, really starting to drive is the AI conversation, but how much utilities getting pushed through that.
Yeah.
So data centers are a huge environment where meters are getting put in because of how much electric cost is going into that. And we do have a few different data centers that we're helping with that are billing well over $1 million a month. So those numbers are continuing to increase as people need more of those data environments. But
Mhm.
we're all over the place, up, down, and around.
Yeah, and utility bills are just to kind of piggyback off that. Utility bills are getting more and more complex. I mean, they've always been challenging to comprehend and kind of ingest that information, but over the last few years, rates are going up, and utility bills are getting even more complex to understand. So having industry professionals there to kind of guide you through that process, I think is more valuable now than ever, quite honestly. Before we kind of toss it over to or change pace here and do question and answer, I would love to do this again next year with you, Paul, and kind of compare, some of these numbers. I know we've got a lot of exciting opportunities, both from a site, meter count, access control portfolios, on-demand HVAC portfolios, looking at that solution. So, yeah, I'd love to do this again next year and kind of do a side-by-side compare contrast of some of these numbers because we're growing. That's for sure, and we're helping more and more customers on a day-to-day basis. And I get a lot of phone calls from property managers that have moved locations, that call us, call Genia, looking for our, solution. So I really think that is a direct, reflection of our Net Promoter Score, and quite honestly, a great reflection of our organization, both from a product perspective and from a customer service perspective as well. So good points. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. And I will go ahead and open it up to any questions that you guys have. I know we're running a little bit tight on time here, but we have a couple of minutes in case anybody's got some questions that they would like to ask us. We are here. If not, I'll kind of just keep talking while we're waiting for some questions. But this is being recorded. We will circulate it and also share it on social media. So if you have anybody that couldn't make it from your organization that you want to share this with, obviously we'll make that available to you guys as well. I'm not seeing any questions here yet. We've got a bunch of folks in. Feel free to ask us some questions. Paul, is there anything else that you'd like to kind of bring up or reiterate here with the couple minutes we have left?
No, just appreciate everyone hopping in with us today. I know this is a big topic around utility costs and how can I save equipment? How can I save the total spend? And something that we're really leaning into and helping our customers understand. So if there are questions that come out of this meeting that you guys do want to follow up with us, feel free. We love hopping on the calls. We love talking through things. One of probably my favorite things about going to a more remote environment is that customers that I've worked with for 5, 10, 15 years, I've gotten to see them on camera. And it's something that adds a little bit more of that personal touch. So something that we really enjoy about what we do is working with the different teams and really helping them to get to a better place, whether it's operating the buildings or creating different processes internally that can allow them to make sure that what they're doing is correct.
Awesome. Well, again, I certainly appreciate your time, Paul. To all of our attendees and participants, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you got a lot of good information out of this, just like I did. And like I mentioned, we're going to circulate this recording, and we'll also include our contact information in case you guys have any questions, in case you guys want to hop on a call or bounce any ideas off of us or ask us for any recommendations. We're always here to talk about, obviously, Genia's solutions, but just have general conversations about the industry and some of the trends that we're seeing, some of the hardwares and softwares that we're seeing, besides Genia that are really helping our customers. Because at the end of the day, our success is tied to our customers' success. And yeah, we're very cognizant of that, and we love our customers. So without further ado, everybody enjoy the rest of your day, your rest of the week. Again, we sincerely appreciate you joining us today. And until next time, signing out for Ed and Paul.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.